So hi guys, this is the part 3 of the mammary gland. So today we are going to discuss about the blood supply of the breast, that is both arterial supply and the venous drainage and also lymphatic drainage. The mammary gland is extremely vascular. It is supplied by branches of the following arteries. Those are, first one is the internal thoracic artery, also called as mammary artery. It is a branch of the subclavian artery. Through its perforating branches, it supplies the breast. You guys don't worry, we'll be showing these arteries on a diagram so you can understand it very well. Second one is the lateral thoracic artery. It is a branch of axillary artery. Next is the acromiothoracic artery, also called as thoracoacromial artery of the pectoral branch. This is also a branch of axillary artery. And next comes is the superior thoracic artery. Same, it is also an axillary artery branch. And here comes the third one, that is the lateral branches of the posterior intercostal arteries. So guys, remember this, these arteries are very important. Your external may ask in the viva also, name the artery supplying the breast, so you have to remember this. Guys, you can see in this diagram the arteries. See the subclavian artery, which has the internal thoracic artery, the straight branch from the midline, internal thoracic artery, the perforating branches of internal thoracic artery piercing the breast, and you can see the axillary artery there. Its branches are superior thoracic artery, acromiothoracic artery, and lateral thoracic artery. And you can also see the lateral branches of posterior intercostal arteries. And here the note point is the arteries converge on the breast and are distributed from anterior surface, and the posterior surface is relatively avascular. Here comes the venous drainage. As you all know, if there is arterial supply, there should be venous drainage to take over the waste. So the venous drainage of the breast we'll discuss now. The venous drainage of the breast takes place by the following veins. You should remember these. That is axillary vein, internal thoracic vein, posterior intercostal veins. As we all know, the veins follow the arteries, so as the name comes, okay, axillary vein, second one is the internal thoracic vein, third one is the posterior intercostal veins. And the interesting thing to know is the venous drainage of the breast is divided into two systems, that is superficial venous drainage and the deep venous drainage. As the name suggests, superficial is the superficial which drains, and deep is the deep of the breast which drains. So if you come to the superficial venous drainage, it forms the plexus, that is Haller's venous plexus. These are anastomotic venous circular plexus under the nipple areola. It is on the anterior surface. So drains into internal thoracic veins, lateral thoracic veins and superficial veins of the lower part of the neck till drain. So if you come to the deep venous drainage, it drains into axillary vein, posterior intercostal veins and internal thoracic veins. So guys, let me make you clear. The veins follow the arteries, right? So they first converge towards the base of the nipple, where they form an anastomotic venous circle from where veins run in superficial and deep sets. So the superficial venous drainage and the deep venous drainage. So this superficial venous drainage will drain into the internal thoracic veins, lateral thoracic veins and superficial veins of lower part of neck. And this deep venous drainage drain into axillary vein, posterior intercostal veins and internal thoracic veins. That's it, as simple as that. To make you understand even more, we will represent in the form of diagram, which will come next. Guys, you can see here we have represented both arterial supply and venous drainage together. So see here the venous drainage. Here you can see the circle around the nipple, beneath the nipple areola. That is the anastomotic venous circle, Haller's venous plexus. So the superficial veins drain into internal thoracic vein and into superficial veins of the lower part of the neck. And of course lateral thoracic veins, which is clearly depicted in the picture through arrows, you can see, which is represented with the green color arrows. And the deep veins drain into axillary and posterior intercostal veins. See, axillary vein, posterior intercostal veins, and internal thoracic veins. The deep venous system, drainage system. You can see it in the picture depicted. This completes the venous drainage and followed by the lymphatic drainage. We'll see now. Before discussing the lymphatic drainage, you should know what are lymph nodes, what are lymphatic vessels. Lymph nodes has predominantly lymphocytes as tissue present in the node. The lymphatic vessels are the vessels which drain the lymph, which carry the lymph, which will passes the lymph through the lymph nodes. So you have to remember this. So if we speak histologically, the lymph node has the trabecular meshwork, which traps the microorganisms, the bacteria, toxins, whatever the things. So it filters the lymph. This trabeculae has the lymphocytic tissue which will kill the microorganisms, and it acts as a filter of these lymph nodes. So here the lymphatic vessels drain lymph, filters back to circulation. It will bring back to the heart. These lymphatics will bring back these lymph to the heart, and back to circulation. It will circulate again and again. And here the note, it is the most important. The carcinoma of breast spreads mostly along lymphatics to regional lymph nodes. As a part of the topic, this carcinoma of breast, we will discuss it in the clinical anatomy separately. Here we see lymphatic drainage, lymph nodes and lymphatics. So lymph nodes, you have to remember these lymph nodes. The most important group are axillary lymph nodes. These are 5 groups. First one is the anterior or pectoral group, posterior group, central group, lateral group, and apical group. The regions where the lymph nodes are present. So these 5 groups. And the second one is the internal mammary nodes, also called as anterior thoracic nodes, parasternal nodes. Third is the supraclavicular nodes. Fourth is the posterior intercostal nodes. Fifth is the cephalic nodes, also called as deltopectoral nodes. And the extra one, those are subdiaphragmatic and subperitoneal lymph plexus are also present. We'll locate these nodes on a diagram so that you can understand it very well. Before going to that, we'll discuss the drainage system. So the lymphatic vessels, lymphatics, same as venous drainage. Here also superficial lymphatics and deep lymphatics. In the superficial lymphatics, drains from the skin of the breast except nipple and areola. And the deep lymphatics drains from parenchyma of breast and skin of nipple and areola. So you have to remember the skin of nipple and areola, and from the parenchyma of the breast the lymphatics will drain. So that is subareolar plexus of Sapi will be present. These will drain. So here you can see a plexus of lymphatic vessels deep to areola, which drains into anterior group of axillary lymph nodes. So as we summarize, superficial lymphatics and deep lymphatics. Superficial lymphatics drain from the skin of the breast except nipple and areola, and the deep lymphatics drain from parenchyma of breast and skin of nipple and areola in the form of subareolar plexus of Sapi, which in turn drains into anterior group of axillary lymph nodes. As you can see it in the diagram, the axillary group of lymph nodes, apical, central, lateral, anterior and posterior groups, these 5, and the internal mammary nodes, also called as anterior thoracic nodes, and the posterior intercostal nodes, the deltopectoral node and the supraclavicular nodes. So you can see the based upon the region where these nodes present, the name has came to these nodes. That's it. See in this picture, we can see the complete lymphatic system of the human body. You can see the lymphatics of the mammary gland, which is encircled with the red color one. We'll see how the lymph is drained. About 75% of lymph from the breast drains into axillary nodes, 20% into anterior thoracic nodes, nothing but internal mammary nodes, and the 5% into the posterior intercostal nodes. Here the lymph from the anterior and posterior groups passes into the central and lateral groups and through them to the apical group. Finally, it reaches the supraclavicular nodes. As you can clearly see through these blue arrows in the picture, Here you can see the subareolar lymph plexus of Sapi. A plexus of lymph vessels is present deep to the areola. That is nothing but subareolar lymph plexus of Sapi drains lymph into the anterior or pectoral lymph nodes. As you can see in the diagram, among the axillary lymph nodes, the lymphatics end mostly in the anterior group of lymph nodes, partly in posterior apical group of lymph nodes. So I see here the schematic diagram. Anterior lymph node or posterior lymph node drains lymph into lateral lymph node or central lymph node, which in turn drains into apical lymph node, which in turn drains into supraclavicular lymph node. And the lymphatics from the lower and inner quadrants of the breast may communicate with the subdiaphragmatic and subperitoneal lymph plexus lymph nodes after crossing the costal margin and then piercing the anterior abdominal wall through upper part of the linea alba, which is clearly schematically represented as a form of diagram. You can see from the subareolar lymph plexus of Sapi and the lower quadrants, lower lateral and lower medial, the lymphatics pierces the linea alba, upper part of the linea alba, and reaches the subdiaphragmatic or subperitoneal lymph plexus. Nothing but they communicate from breast to the subdiaphragmatic and subperitoneal lymph plexus. The communication you can see. So that from this communication only the spread of the tumor cells, metastasis is going to happen. And the note point is anterior and central group of lymph nodes commonly involved in the carcinoma of breast. So the metastasis will be happening to these lymph nodes. And here the superficial lymphatics of the breast of one side communicate with those of the opposite side. That is, consequently, the unilateral malignancy may become bilateral. It's not that only single breast is involved. It can spread to other opposite side of the other breast also. And you can see here the inner half of the breast and the outer half of the breast as well will drain it into the internal mammary or anterior thoracic lymph nodes. In the next point, you can see the lymphatics from the deep surface of the gland passes through the pectoralis major muscle and the clavipectoral fascia to reach the apical nodes and also to the anterior thoracic nodes. In the diagram, you can see the direct pathway of deep lymphatics of the breast through pectoralis major and clavipectoral fascia to apical group of lymph nodes. See the green color arrows. It pierces the pectoralis major muscle and clavipectoral fascia to reach the apical group of axillary lymph nodes. So you can see here the picture from the Vishram Singh textbook. So you can see the drainage of lymph through arrows and the spread of tumor into the ovary, that is Krickenberg tumor. We will discuss it in a clinical anatomy part. So now, as of now, you can have an idea of the lymphatic drainage and the spread of tumor, how it will spread to the ovary from this picture. Up to then, thank you. Stay tuned.